And we are live. This is Dr. Nelson Vasquez from Central Florida. Good afternoon, everyone. It's 3 p.m. on the 9th of September. And thank you for being here. Today, we're going to have a discussion, friendly conversation with Adrian Gledhill. And I'm going to ask you people to first tell me where you're watching from. Second, put your questions in the chat. If you can precede that with a QQQ, it makes it easier for me to see them and highlight them. And that way we can ask Adrian any and all of your questions. So if you put it, I'll try not to miss it. And we can have a good 59 more minutes of conversation. So thank you for being here, Adrian. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing, especially because I get to spend part of my day with you.
Thank you. So where are you, in Minnesota?
Sort of.
Okay.
I live on a border town of Wisconsin, Minnesota.
Okay.
And I swear to you, we only have one bee in the whole house, and he's right here. And he just keeps coming to get me. Oh, I got him. I'm sorry. That's real TV right there. First thing I just want to say, if anybody hasn't met Dr. Nelson in real life, he is so lovely. Like, he's just one of those people you just want to hug. I absolutely love you. And every interaction that we get to have, I can't wait to see you again soon. I'm sure we'll see you at Hack Your Health.
I will definitely be there, God willing, at Hack Your Health, Tampa, in November 14th, I believe, starts. We'll be there with the full Kiltz Health crew, and we'll be looking forward to seeing everybody come by the booth and talk to us. Alia is gonna be there.
Yes.
She's making the long trip from South America, and we're gonna have a full complement of people. Dr. Kiltz also is a speaker at Hack Your Health. So the whole team is going to be there, yes. So, Adrian, many of the people that frequent these channels probably have heard some or all of your story, but for those that may not, or in the future, those that will see this and not know anything about you, why don't you go ahead and start us from the beginning? We'll sort of do an elevator pitch version of that, because it can be a long story, right? It has certainly taken many years for this story to develop. So go ahead, introduce yourself, tell us where you are. I did mention The Biggest Loser on my channel title. It's not on the Kiltz channel titles, but anyways, go ahead.
You are so right. This could be a long thing. Before I was ever even on The Biggest Loser, I had people telling me that I should write a book. But we'll skip some of that because it's not really related to health necessarily, other than to say so many of us that struggle with our weight, with our health, we often have a history of trauma. And my upbringing was no different. I have to say, in all of this, no matter what, I have a warrior for a father. I was raised by a single dad, and I've been obese my whole life. And I remember being a little girl, and this isn't healthy, but I remember being like 4 and looking down at my thighs and knowing that they were big. So as I had my children, I've been really careful with the language around them, not to create the same type of issue with them, which is really hard because society still sees anybody who's struggling with their weight as someone who needs to be restricted. And I've learned so many lessons, which we'll get into from the carnivore diet. But the number one thing with the carnivore diet is it's the first way of eating where people said, no, you need to be nourished. It was the first time ever. But anyway, we'll get into that later. So as a little kid, I was always hungry all the time. I remember at school, they would give like peanuts and raisins, just a little serving to each kid. And I would just cherish those. And I would create a little envelope with the paper towel and I would tape it to try to like just make those peanuts last because I just wanted to eat all the time. And I was going to scrum up every one of those peanuts and savor it. And every babysitter that we had, because my dad had to work around the clock to support us, every time they would give everybody a serving and it was just never enough for me. I'm always hungry 5 minutes after I eat. As you know, in the 80s and 90s, the diet was consistent of a lot of noodles. And those never filled me ever. I could eat them endlessly. I remember sitting with my dad one night and he made spaghetti and I was like 6 and I ate more spaghetti than he did. And he was like a 240-pound man, and that was like a really big turning point at life of them being like, we really have to watch what this girl's eating. She's big and she can eat a lot. So when my dad got married when I was about 10, and that kind of changed things. Now I have 2 parents to kind of help so I could start getting into sports. So I did what everybody said. I restricted as much as I could and I exercised as much as I could. And it was a full-time job. I played sports around the clock. If I could play multiple sports in a season, I did. And through high school, I was able to maintain like 165. I'm playing soccer, cross-country skiing, track, golf. I know people don't think golf is a sport. I do. You're walking and carrying your bag. You're walking those hills, carrying your bag, you're swinging. You got to have strong muscles to swing and hit that ball really hard. Anyway, so I played a lot of sports. But then I went to a college that was pretty prestigious called St. Olaf College in Minnesota. And I no longer had time to make sports a full-time job and just taking away the exercise and then taking away the limit of the food. I gained 60 pounds in college so quickly. And so the struggle has really been my whole life, but college is really when I hit obesity. And I do remember in high school, whatever height I was, that 165 was considered obese. I remember learning the BMI in health class and going home and crying because I was obese. Despite playing all these sports, despite restricting my food, I was still considered an obese BMI. So in college, I came home one summer, and that's when my stepmom and I did Atkins for the first time. And I lost 30, 40 pounds. I was very successful at it. But the second I went back to college, it all came back on. So I still have it in my mind though that, the mindset was really bad when I was young, which was that I was not worthy. I was not lovable. I'm not going to be able to get a job. I'm not going to be able to progress in anything because I have to carry all this weight around and everybody can see it. That's what really sucks about obesity is you carry your condition around and everybody can see your condition. There's no hiding it. And I did a really good job of hiding it in my clothes. So that's when we enter The Biggest Loser, which is all the rave right now, which is kind of fun. It's exactly 20 years. Next year will be 20 years since my show aired. It was 2006. So that's kind of fun. That it's been 20 years and we're still talking about this epic show. And I don't know if you want me to go into that, but I can.
My guess, there is some controversy there. That we like that.
Yeah. And our community, the carnivore community, has been criticizing that show openly for a long time, saying, look at it, you're starving yourself, the metabolic adaptation, the bad on your hormones, the chronic exercise. I learned so many things when I came into carnivore to just be more gentle on my body and nourish my body. But it's taken a long time to get there.
I think the criticism is, I think, perhaps warranted because exercise is not that exercise is bad, right? Exercise activity is needed. We don't move as much as our counterparts 200 years ago and before. We have a sedentary life in comparison, completely in almost all areas. So you do need activity, but you cannot out exercise a bad diet. And if you're eating everything loaded with carbohydrate, refined sugar, refined oils, everything that comes in a box, a bag, or a can, which is 99% of it fake food, that food companies are telling you it's okay to eat this. It's just heart healthy, or it has a lot of fiber. They advertise free, fat free or sugar free, but it's all ultra processed foods, and they really are not good for you. You cannot out exercise a bad diet. You can, however, lose weight. Not that I'm promoting this, without exercise, because some people, when they start losing weight, can't really do much. They can get up from the chair, perhaps, and take a few steps because they are so big. But exercise really, what we think of exercise, is not an option. So, but yes, it is important. And as soon as you can, if you're in a situation like that, as soon as you can add some activity to it, it's good to do it. So it's not bad, but it's not a substitute for good nutrition.
Yeah, and over exercising a person who is obese can signal a couple things to your body. One is stress, which is going to actually push you into fat storing mode instead of fat burning mode. And then the second thing is all the injury. I was fortunate enough to actually be kicked off the show day one, and whoever lost the most weight at home got to come back on. So the reason it was fortunate is because I got to be home. I got a plan from Dr. Huizenga. He was on that documentary. I'm a big Dr. H fan. He told us not to work out all day, not to eat 800 calories. He based our calories on the testing that he had done. He did extensive testing. He told me 1,274 calories. He told me how to break it down. He was more of like a whole foods guy, but he told us, he said, vegan isn't going to work. I need you to eat meat. And even back then, 20 years ago, he said that he had patients who had heart attacks who were vegan. And he had said it was the plants causing plaque in the blood vessels and that the animal fat helps flush it through. He said that like 20 years ago. Now, in retrospect, I think what he meant was the vegetable oils. Not necessarily vegetables are causing plaque in the blood vessels, but vegetable oils, I think, do.
Well, chronic excessive carbohydrate consumption contributes to insulin resistance, which may be the primary. Atherosclerosis is multifactorial, but the cholesterol is like a minimal, if any, factor.
Right. But even back then, he was saying that animal fats essentially were good and we needed them to clear out the blood vessels and keep them healthy.
Yeah,
So even back then, Dr. H, he was on it. He did have us doing 2-a-days. So I was doing an hour in the morning, an hour and a half at night, or vice versa, depending on the schedule, 6 days a week, even if you're sick. He had me doing cardio, but also weightlifting. He said, you can't just do cardio. I need you to be weightlifting every day, he had said. And when
sounds like he was writing many things, huh?
He was what?
He was writing many things.
Mm-hmm. He was right on many things. And when Jaron and I entered the show, because we lost the most weight out of everybody at home, we were also the youngest, by the way, just throwing that in there. I thought I was so wonderful, but I look back and I'm like, I was 21 and I was competing with 61-year-olds, 51-year-olds. But anyway, Jaron and I, we had no injury and we had good mental health. Part of the at-home program was a psychologist and a nutritionist and him, and we had calls every week. So we had support, we had community, we had so many tools. When I went to go on the show, he looked at me and he said, I mean, he's trying not to let me know that I made it back on, but he was like, I really don't want you to do this. This is going to destroy you. This is not a good fit. I really wish you wouldn't go on. And he said, if you are going to go on, I need you to stick to your guns and it's going to be really hard, but you have to stick to this plan that we have for you. As soon as I got on, they really pressured me. I knew, and they already did. They villainized everything for me, even questioning why I would join their program, which Jaron and I were beating most of the contestants by a decent amount. Being home. Anyway, there were many shocks getting on the show, like the fact that the gym wasn't actually a building. It was a canvas black structure in the middle of the desert. And we didn't have air conditioning. We had like swamp coolers where they blow like wet air at you from the pond. It was something else. So when you see us sweating like crazy, it's because it was freaking hot and they were blowing swamp air at us. I did convert to their program, which was move all day and eat as little as possible. Back then, what people don't realize too is filming. I mean, I asked contestants, how long was the filming? Do you guys remember? And people documented like 6 months. Like it was a long time to be sequestered from your family. So when you see people being total psycho buttholes, it's because they're losing their mind. They haven't seen their children, their wife, their best friend for 6 months. And compile losing weight, flushing fat cells that have toxins and hormones is a mess, you know? So people are very emotional on there. I mean, we're emotional when we lose weight anyway, but then put a camera in somebody's face 24/7 everywhere they go and don't let them talk to their family and really watch them turn crazy. Another thing, yeah.
Just to point something out, that show showed us the wrong way to do it. I would say.
You know, in the show's defense, they were doing what America thought we should do, which is get that weight off. And it's almost like nobody cared what happens after the weight off. It was all about get that weight off. That'll fix everything. That was the mindset back then. I don't think that's our mindset today because too many people have gained all of their weight back. Too many people have lost all of their hair, their metabolism, their thyroid, their muscle. We've watched too many we'll go into bariatric in a minute here. So anyway, went on the show, lost 66 pounds. The show was very, very much stacked against us at-home contestants. That really mentally screwed with me because I just wanted to win. To me, winning wasn't about $250,000. It was about not being a leper. It was about not being classified as an obese human being anymore because I thought if I changed my classification that people would finally love me. And that kind of breaks my heart to even say that out loud, that I thought nobody loved me. But what really, really breaks my heart is I think that I didn't love myself. So the good part of the show is learning, hey, I've lost this 66 pounds. I still don't love me. What are we going to do about that? So that's one of the positive takeaways there. But the negative is that I immediately started struggling with cross addiction, alcohol. I started struggling with mental health. I went from 161 pounds to my highest was over 300 pounds. And I think I stopped weighing myself at 330. So I more than doubled my weight after the show. And then I hid for like 8 years because I didn't know what to do. I just felt like a failure and it just felt overwhelming. You know, when you get so obese, you just feel overwhelmed. You feel like you've gone so far down the road that there's no way to come back. When I hit that 330 is when I said, I have to do something. I can't get out of bed. I can't walk in a grocery store. I can barely move. And I couldn't fit in clothes. So that's when I started Biggest Losering again. I started half marathoning and counting every morsel of low fat. And I'm pretty sure I was 0 fat for years because later on I started having the gallbladder issues. So 0 fat diet coupled with extreme exercise again. And it was my full life again. And I got 100 pounds off by myself again. And well, not again. I guess last time it was 66 pounds, but 100 pounds. But even doing those same things, my body started fighting me again. And now I see this in other people and I watch them and I'm like, oh, you know? So your body starts fighting you at some point. And for me, it was 100 pounds. So I started going back up again and I was like, what do I do? And I didn't realize where this was coming from. But I guess in season 9, the NIH did a study on the Biggest Loser contestants.
By the way,
and
what season were you in?
3.
3. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So one of the very first seasons, it was a big show by the time I was on it. It got big instantly. Um, the NIH did that study and showed that there was such metabolic adaptation that people, when they started the show, they could eat this amount. By the end of the show, to maintain, they would have to eat, it was like 435 less calories. That was like a significant, what is that, like a 25% difference for women in your metabolism just to maintain. And they concluded that we should all have gastric bypass or bariatric surgery. I didn't know where it was coming from. I just knew a whole bunch of contestants started having the bariatric surgery and they were finally being successful and keeping it off for more than 5 minutes. And I was like, obviously there's something off here. And apparently that's the best way to fix it. And it made logical sense at the time that if I'm overeating, I need to not overeat. So you need to force me to not overeat. And it'd be great if the food didn't get absorbed. In retrospect, that is so barbaric and awful.
So I stop nutrients from going into your body. That's
Yeah.
by the way, this is a comment I got to ask you right now because it's pertinent. I saw a video, says Larry, where Jillian Michaels was saying carnivore is the worst fat diet and very dangerous.
I think vegan's more dangerous.
Have you, by any chance, ran into Jillian at some point?
I would love to run into Jillian. Jillian, if you're watching this, let's have a talk. I have so much to say to her, so much, which we'll get into further in a little bit. At least Bob, I saw an interview with Bob on, I think it was Dateline, and at least he admitted, which Jillian still doesn't admit to this day, he said, if you struggle with obesity, it is a monkey on your back for the rest of your life. So at least he's seeing this isn't just to lose the weight. The weight, to me, actually isn't even the problem. It causes problems. But the problem is, why is your body storing all that fat instead of discarding or using it for energy? But anyway, I would love to have a conversation with her. So anyway, I had the gastric bypass. I get down to the 160s again. But when I did it, I am Mrs. Perfection, you guys. So I am tracking everything. I'm counting everything. I'm weighing everything. I'm pre-making my meals. I'm exercising 5 to 6 days a week again, because I understand lifestyle is so important. I don't know if I was doing enough weightlifting, if I'm gonna be honest. But then that's when the problems came. That's when the real problems came. The gastric bypass. I started having, because they take between 100 and 150 centimeters of your intestine, and I told my doctor, take it all. Heck, while you're down there, do a dual daddle switch, whatever it's called. I was like, make me skinny. That's when the problem started. Ever since then, I've had chronic hypoglycemia because we're skipping so much intestine that the hormone signaling isn't appropriate when food comes in. And so all carbohydrates. So for the next 8 years, I spend reducing and reducing and reducing and reducing carbohydrates in an effort to stop this hyperinsulinemia, where I'm eating a carbohydrate, I'm getting a big push of insulin, it's bombing me out, and no glucagon is coming in to bring me back up. So the digestive hormones now are completely dysregulated when they were already dysregulated to begin with. Now they're completely on a different planet. And this hypoglycemia is destroying my life. I mean, I can't leave the house without hypoglycemia. I would take my kids to the grocery store, and in the middle, my blood sugar would drop right there. Their answer from the doctor was, here, just carry these sugar pills with you. So I would keep the sugar with me. And this only lasted like 4 days when I realized this is the worst BS advice I've ever received in my entire life. We're going to put that advice up there with the same thing as, we're going to give you malabsorption, but we also want you to take oral supplements for the rest of your life, which are also the same digestive tract. That doesn't absorb anything. Anyway, so I have this reactive hypoglycemia, and that's essentially what controls my life. Having these episodes is a stressor to the body that can last for days. It takes out your adrenal hormones. It takes out your sex hormones. It takes out your thyroid. because we're causing this major stress event, and it doesn't come back up if you don't eat something, because the glucagon's not coming. So I've passed out before. You can have seizures. It's very serious. So I keep going lower and lower and lower and lower and lower and lower carb. I keep getting more and more and more and more and more tired. Um, that's when the Ovid K hit. We're not going to say the word. And that was my tipping point. After that, I was having food reactions to all food. I was having intrusive thoughts. I was forgetting to pick my kids up from school. I mean, I was so sick and I didn't know what to do. And when you go to the doctors, they were just like, maybe you need some mental health medication. And it was like, no, I'm literally, something is very, very wrong. Something's very wrong. My dad had lost 60 pounds on the carnivore diet. Well, actually, no grains, no sugar. Vinny Tortolich, right? And Vinny's partner, Anna, right? She has the autoimmune and she was feeling better on the carnivore diet. So he was the one that was like, you should give this a try. So what I learned in carnivore, things nobody talks about, like, why are people having these gallbladder issues? They didn't eat enough fat and it's sludging up. Why are people having all these stones? I was guilty of eating, because I was told, eat this much vegetable and eat this much meat and don't eat any fat. Why are people having metabolism issues? Because we're not eating enough calories. Why are we having the issues too? Because we're eating the wrong fats. We're cooking with rancid fats that are cross-contaminated with seed oil, even though we think it's olive oil and avocado oil. We're just deathly afraid of animal fat. I probably didn't eat animal fat for 20 years, So we learned so much in this community. Another thing I learned was I had been running, and I even starting the carnivore diet was like, okay, I got to get back to my marathon running. And I did half marathons in the beginning of carnivore. Then I learned that those adrenal issues I was having, because I had like the highest level of adrenal dysfunction you could have, was like, do we put her on steroids? But then you don't put me on steroids because it could affect the thyroid issues I was having. So we weren't sure. So this pretty much, there was no answer, because if we fix this issue, then it's going to hurt this issue. Also, I just knew long-term steroids sounded like a recipe for a disaster. Oh, so by the way, after gastric bypass and then Ovid K, now I am fully on board with the less the better as far as medicine. Like, can we get medicine from the sun, from the earth, from the food? Because these medicines and these interventions that I'm having seem to be just not helping me. I hadn't taken aspirin since the surgery. I have 2 kids who have injuries from the mandates that children have. So at this point, I'm all in on, let's get this natural remedy and heal our body. And the improvements that I saw were, at the same time, I found out about the mold thing, that mold was bad. I mean, so many good nuggets in this community that nobody else seems to be taking seriously. So we moved out of our moldy house. I started some low-dose naltrexone. So I'm not anti-medicine, but the idea of microdosing sounds promising. So I'm taking low-dose naltrexone. And between the carnivore diet, the LDN, stopping the running, moving out of a moldy house, the intrusive thoughts immediately vanished. So my family was ready to commit me, because I didn't know how to explain sitting on the floor crying in fear that my babies were going to die. I didn't know how to explain that every time we drove across the bridge, because there's a bridge between our 2 towns, that I was afraid we were going to fall off and die. I didn't know how to explain that to them without sounding like a crazy person. And so I just kept of all the symptoms that I had, I was having neuropathy, where I couldn't walk more than a couple of blocks without my feet burning and tingling. I was having incredible neck pain. My neck was completely locked up all the time. I was not sleeping at all. I was peeing 25 times a day. And so much of this just immediately got better on the carnivore diet. So if anything, the carnivore diet is a relief diet while we figure out if you need other tools for healing, which I think some people do, including myself. So at a minimum, it is a tool for almost instant relief. And the other thing that I experienced for the first time in my life was the quieting of the food noise. Because when you start the carnivore diet, you get to be full. That's the other thing. I think humans should be able to be full. And if you're little Miss Adrian who's 4 and you're never full, that is such a sad thing. I think telling little Adrian you shouldn't be full, that's what's making you fat. That is a
There are
terrible message.
there are many people that talk about this, and the short message is hunger always wins. You know, if you're chronically hungry, your chances of making it through are not going to be big, because it doesn't matter what the diet is, wrong, bad, good. If you're hungry, it's not going to be sustainable, period. And that's probably the number one reason uh, people fail on their diets. It's hunger.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
Like my third day, I went carnivore. I had been keto for 6 months. Uh, about the third day, I went carnivore. I got up knowing that morning I wasn't going to eat anything that day, because I was not hungry at all. And I had never fasted more, 24 hours, never before. And next day, I only ate because I was scared what was going on. I'm not hungry. I didn't eat yesterday. Let me have something today. That was the only reason I ate. I still wasn't hungry on the second day, after skipping one day of eating. So
Mm.
it is satiating.
I just got an important message from the school. 1 second, sorry.
Not a problem.
I don't know if you heard about the message I had earlier this week.
No, I did not.
Earlier this week. Oh, I got a message day one of my son in preschool that he decided to hide rocks in his ear.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yes, I did see. I think I even saw your video showing one of the little pebbles, and
Yeah.
they thought there were still some in there.
Yeah. So it's a good thing that he actually put that rock in his ear because they couldn't get the other rocks out. And so we went to like 5 different people. We tried very hard, obviously, knowing what I know now with 2 kids who are injured from the standard medical system, very injured. Um, I don't want my kids, my 4th kid, he's untouched. So I wanted them to get that rock out so bad and they couldn't. So on Friday, we actually put him under anesthesia and got the other one out. And it turns out it was like a little Lego piece. So he had put a Lego in there, I don't know, in the last 2 years, I guess. And so we got the Lego out. Anyway, he seems to be doing perfectly fine. But before we proceed with this story, I just want to tell you how seriously I take medicine, the medical system, the side effects, the lies, you know where I'm going with this. Like, I'm on board with all of that. As we continue on with the story, I ended up needing more. And I don't know that that's a story that's going to resonate with your audience, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell it just in case it does resonate with someone. But if it doesn't resonate with you, please keep doing what is right for you. I think ultimately we all need a toolbox, and the tools that I need are not going to be the same tools that you need, or you need, or you need, or you need. I really think we are very bio-individual, and there's no bigger obvious point there than when we talk about high fat, low fat. I'm in the boat where I don't feel good if I eat high fat consistently. I definitely follow my body, and sometimes my body says, bring on the butter. But if I eat high fat day upon day upon day upon day, I do not feel good. Some people feel terrible on low fat and they feel amazing on high fat. So I just really think as we progress, just please keep in mind that we we absolutely are individual. If there's no other case for individuality, just look at a 20-year-old woman versus a 60-year-old woman. Very different biology happening, very different hormones happening, very different communication happening inside the body, not to mention all of the wisdom. But anyway, so I start eating all this meat. I start feeling better. The best part of this all, I think, in the whole wide world, hands down, is the community. I think that's why so many people are successful on carnivore, is because the community is so strong and phenomenal and amazing and researching things and supporting each other. We have so many amazing groups. I joined Kelly's group, Kelly Hogan, of course. I joined Danny Conway's group. I joined Dr. Lisa's. Dr. Lisa was really mostly my cup of tea because she's really like a suck it up buttercup, which, people hate that about Jillian, the whole suck it up buttercup. But the truth of the matter is, I like to be pushed. I like someone to say, I actually think you can take that further. I think you can work harder. I believe in you. I know you can do hard things, and we're going to do hard things, and it's going to make you feel better. So as I continue with carnivore, I did lose some weight initially, and that just gives you like that momentum of like, ooh, I'm healing and I'm going to get fit and healthy looking, When I started carnivore, I was over 200 pounds. And for the first time, I broke into the 150s instead of the 160s. But as I look back at my Renfo scale, you guys don't have a Renfo, highly recommend, because you don't have to really pay attention to the number. You can just let it feed to your phone and look at the trend later on. I trended in the upper 60s and 70s, most of my carnivore. And that is still, for my height, considered overweight, obese. And I could feel it. I was still, 30 or so % fat. I could feel it. I was consistent with my exercise too. And unfortunately for me, the food noise came back. That quiet went away. And I was zero sweetener. And most of my carnivore, I was dairy free. The only thing I never gave up was the salt. I like salty. I don't know about you, Dr. Kiltz, or Dr. Nelson.
They often confuse us.
I know, both handsome, right? Both handsome doctors, successful doctors. So I had cut those things, and the food noise still came back. And I know people don't necessarily believe me, but now that I know a little bit more about digestive hormones, it absolutely came back for me. Some people, it doesn't come back, and they just feel great forever on carnivore, and I'm so happy for them. But unfortunately for me, the cravings continued, the food noise continued, the circling the kitchen continued, the obsession continued. I crossed my obsession for eating, and instead of eating, I just watched YouTube, listened to podcasts on carnivore, listened to podcasts on healing. So I crossed it, so I wasn't eating all the time, but I had to work at it every single day. So then I joined Lisa's group. So I joined Kelly's group to try to play with macros and calorie deficits and find different ways to lose the weight again, and it was successful. But then it came back. I joined Dr. Lisa's group to get my food noise away again. And so we tried different things. Like one summer, I ate nothing but sardines Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then I would refuel with just meat, mostly eggs and beef on the other days, and even play around with a PSMF day. When that didn't really stick, it worked until it didn't. When that didn't really stick, then I moved into the lion diet. So the lion diet is like a year and a half into carnivore. And I stuck out lion for almost 2 months. But at day 35, I gained 14 pounds in 3 days of inflammation. My energy tanked, my food noise went through the roof, and I just felt like SHI. But then I was like, I'm going to power through this because this is part of healing. Part of healing is uncomfortable. Just power through it. And my hormones just continued to bomb out. Food noise still so loud. That's when I just realized, for me, restricting more and more and more wasn't going to be the ticket. It wasn't going to be the ticket to peace, because I didn't have peace. It wasn't going to be the ticket to finally getting the weight off. It wasn't going to be the ticket to healing, because my body was rebelling against it. So that's when I just sat back and prayed on it. I mean, I have no choice but to continue being carnivore, because if I divert from carnivore, my hypoglycemia came back. And that's life-threatening. That's debilitating me from being able to take care of my family. So we can't have that return. So I'm still carnivore, but I'm not going to walk 12 miles a day. I'm not going to lift 3 times a week. I'm going to walk 5 miles. I'm going to lift twice a week. I'm not going to track my food. Throughout my whole thing, I was tracking my food and still struggling with my weight, still struggling with my food noise, playing around with all the things. So funny when I go in the comments, the number one comment is, well, you just did it wrong. It's like, how do you do carnivore wrong? First of all, I've been weighing my food since 2006. I know how to weigh and track. And let's say we can't tell that this beef is actually specifically 80/20, like this ribeye. We don't know the exact thing of the ribeye, but we're so darn close. I mean, I did get to the
So
point
you
where
you probably can look at a piece of steak and guess how many ounces it is, right?
I can, but I was measuring, I was weighing, because
But
I was like, this, I have to
by
make this work.
experience of doing it over and over and over, you could have an idea, right?
Yeah.
Uh, que- this is pertinent. I gotta ask you first: do you do any fasting? Let's say 36 hours or longer fastings.
Not anymore, but I did.
Okay.
I
Okay.
did consistent fasting because I wanted to try it all. And fasting did seem to get the weight off, but it came with some consequences for me. It seemed to tank my hormones out. And it also, like, I would start with a day and that'd be cool, and then the next week I'd be like, you know what, I can do 2 days. And that was great. But then when I got to 3, I would always want to turn 3 into 5. It like became addicting to me. And then once I got into the extended fasting, it was hard not to have the mindset when returning to food of food is bad. It was really hard to, and now it makes so much more sense because returning to food meant returning to food noise, and I didn't want to do that. I just liked the peace of once you get through that initial period of, you know what, I'm not going to do the routine of the eating. I'm not going to do the routine. Once you get out of the routine, let's say 12 hours in. Once you get 12 hours in, you're like, okay, this is my new routine. I feel good. The food noise goes away. You get that energy surge. Life is easier. You're not dealing with food all the time. So you're like getting more done. Fasting feels so good. But then I would dread going back to eating. So it wasn't a healthy thing for me. Would I go back to it? I don't think I'm done fasting forever, but I have to be really careful with my mindset and my hormones in approaching it.
I think
I
the cumulative effect of short periods might be better than anything prolonged fasting. Nobody needs to do 40 days or 30 days or anything. I recently did 22 days, and this question is because of that. What is the first thing you eat after an extended fast? Well, after 22 days, I broke my fast with a 16-ounce bone-in ribeye, and I ate it all. Now, I did something I normally didn't do before. I cut it very thin, small pieces, and I took my time doing it. But just in case something happened, nothing happened. I was fine, not a problem.
I have to return with like bone broth. You're a
Some people do it
beast.
like that. That I don't know if there's a wrong way. We have a question here. Is there a known correlation between insulin resistance and food noise?
Mhm.
What do you think?
100%. So this is where I'm getting to now, which is, so we're going to call it insulin resistance, but there's more digestive hormones involved. And I believe now I've experienced that some obesity is due to people's digestive hormones not speaking. They're not speaking with the pancreas and they're not speaking with the brain. And that's what food noise is. Food noise is the signaling isn't getting there that you nourished yourself. And then on top of it, it's not getting to your pancreas to secrete the proper hormones to store it or use it for energy or discard it. So the fuel you're putting in isn't properly being digested. And that's leaving your body with little energy. And then the signaling isn't getting to your brain. And then the signaling that is like, hey, we're out of energy. Give me something. And so it's just telling you constantly, give me something, give me something. I'm out of energy. So I call it digestive hormone dysregulation because I don't
Well,
know if
and
just insulin
I
is the
think
problem.
it is. It can be, but it's not always. And there are other. The thing is, insulin has an effect on ghrelin, leptin, all the incretins and glucagon, and when they're not checking each other, we have multiple positive feedbacks and negative feedback mechanisms between all these hormones. So when you dysregulate one, it may affect all the others. So of course there is described leptin resistance, and there is a description of glucagon resistance. Uh, you're right; it's a dysregulation of the hormones. However, there is nothing wrong with the hormones. The hormones are responding to other signals most of the time, just to chronic excessive carbohydrate consumption. Uh, and I liken this to a brand new car that may run very well when you buy it. You run at 100 miles an hour for a bunch of consecutive days. You destroy the engine. Could there be some engines that from the beginning were not in the perfect condition? Yes. Uh, this is where I say genetic predisposition is important. Genetics don't determine everything, but when you have genetics load the gun and environment pulls the trigger. So, and the environment being, in this case, in particular, diet, exercise, and all the other factors that are around it. But
I
yes,
definitely want to add that there has to be more triggers like the moldy house I grew up in, the trauma I was exposed to, the head injury that I got. There's more. And then when I was 18 months old, I had such bad pneumonia that they thought I died. So they gave me high levels of antibiotics at 18 months old. How did that destroy my gut from actually growing and maturing? And so what I'm seeing also, nobody ever talks about the GLP-1, which is a peptide, but many of these peptides act like signaling hormones. And they say when you're GLP-1 deficient, that even if your ghrelin and your leptin are normal, they can't properly communicate because the GLP-1 is a facilitator in the communication. And so we're seeing these hormone deficiencies. Here's another one that they're saying there's these different enzymes. One is DPP4. And when you have a DPP4 overgrowth in your gut, which could be, again, stress, trauma, antibiotics, alcohol. So this is why we're getting alcoholism, because alcohol causes DPP4 to become rampant. Then it breaks up the signaling, it breaks up the secretion of GLP-1. So, and there's multiple enzymes that can just break up the secretion from even happening. And so a lot of people, when they study people that are obese and have diabetes, they're finding DPP4 through the roof in these guts. So the GLP-1 is being destroyed right in the gut and never making it to the brain or the pancreas.
but we have a medicine for that, Adrian. I am being facetious. Because we've had medicines for the DPP4 are a class of medications that have been used for diabetes for twice as long as the GLP-1s. By the way, GLP-1s are not new. The craze since 2017 has highlighted Ozempic, but the first GLP-1 came out in 20 years ago in 2005. And it's still sold under the name of Bayera. So Ozempic is not the first or even the fifth, probably.
Because there was liraglutide, duaglutide. There's been many.
There's many.
So the reason that we want to skip I want to talk about a couple of things that I did before we even get there. Before I even get there, the first thing I did was go work with my SIRS doctor to check my thyroid and my hormones, because they just seem like they're not functioning right. They just seem like it. So he does say, oh my gosh, your Hashimoto's is through the roof. Your even on a carnivore diet, my Hashimoto's was still bad. My T3 was in the tank. My sex hormones were in the tank. So we added some progesterone, some bioidentical progesterone. We added some T3 thyroid medication. So those are first things. Another thing, if we go back now 12 years, I also went through the 12-step program and quit drinking. And why is this important? Because throughout this whole thing, another thing is your mindset. And the 12-step program got me to rewire my brain from being the victim all the time to living in gratitude, serving other people, seeing my part in things, and giving the rest to God. So all those things are really important before you just hop on a GLP-1, you know? So I did all these things, the weight still struggling with perimenopause, still having brain fog, still having this chronic fatigue. Either in carnivore, there was about 10 months in is when this 14-pound swing started happening and my cycles went from 28 to 21 days. Something weird happened. Like my body seemed stressed out on a strict carnivore diet. Sorry to say. And again, I tried the high fat thing, but that made me feel bloated, tired, and caused me extreme weight gain, even if you stop eating as much protein, which I didn't want to stop eating as much protein because I wanted to protect my muscle. So it's like a hard balance. But anyway, eventually Dr. Amy Horniman, and okay, 1 year ago today was the first time I ever took tirzepatide. 1 year and 1 week ago today, I was anti GLP-1. I mean, truly, very anti. I saw family members and friends getting sick, looking like zombies, walking around like Skeletor, drinking their wine, eating their chocolate, and I'm like, this is so bad. This is wow.
Was she the first one to suggest tirzepatide to you?
Dr. Amy was the first one that ever got through to me because I'm not going to listen to anybody outside of our community. You know how it is. We're a trusted circle. We've researched things. We think a little bit differently. So if anybody outside of our circle said it, I just wouldn't have listened. I'd have been like, listen, I'm a carnivore.
I have good news for the people listening, because Amy is going to be at this hour. Haven't found the date yet, but at this hour, she already signed up. It might be December or later, or maybe November, but she's going to be here with us, with me. Go ahead.
A carnivore, Amy?
Amy Hammerman. I am butchering her last name. The doctor, endocrinologist, Amy Horniman. She's gonna be with us December 18 on Thursday at 3 p.m. So
wow. So she was the first one. The thing that resonated with me wasn't about the weight loss, actually. It was about, I knew the root of so much of my struggle is this autoimmunity and this inflammation. And she said, this is a miracle for people who are chronically inflamed. And up to this point, I've moved out of mold. I've moved 5 times. I'm still having chronic inflammation. I'm still struggling with my cycles. I'm still having all these symptoms that are just debilitating, the brain fog and the fatigue being the absolute worst. And so when she said, listen, people are doing it wrong. If you go low and slow and you couple it with lifestyle, this is phenomenal for all of these autoimmune people who are struggling and nothing helps. I've taken all the supplements. I've worked with at least a dozen different functional practitioners, tried all these supplement protocols. I've done all of the gut protocols. I've done the parasite and the heavy metal. I've done all of that. Nothing worked on it. And in fact, many of it made me sick. And she was like, this is a miracle. So then I started investigating further, finding out there was more evidence that the reason people are getting sick is because they're following standard dosing, which for a person with diabetes, the signaling is so broken and poor that they probably need pretty close to, some diabetics, not all diabetics, need pretty close to standard dosing to get it communicating to the brain and the pancreas. But for a lot of people, they just need little doses. So go low and slow, couple it with lifestyle. I was like, cool, I can do that. I can couple it with lifestyle. I love lifestyle. I'm a carnivore. And so coupling GLP-1 with carnivore has been the best ticket of my life. It has completely changed everything. And I had to slow down all the things I was doing, because we know fast weight loss is not equating to health. That is not equating to health. So the first month, I lost like 15 pounds of inflammation because I was just peeing. And then I lost like another 5 or 10 pounds. And I was like, that's too much. So I stopped walking 12 miles a day and I moved it to 5. I continued my 3 weight lifts a week. I added calories because I added some more calories. I was eating pretty high protein. I added some dairy and got to my weight loss goal, like my actual goal. I've never gotten my goal, not on the Biggest Loser, not on carnivore, not with gastric bypass. I can never break out of obese and overweight in any of those attempts. But with this one, I actually slowly got all the way there. And actually, it was pretty
So
fast, like 6 months.
overall, how long have you been carnivore?
Carnivore, it'll be 3 years in November.
Okay.
And wait, is that right? Yep. So I was about 2 years, almost 2 years carnivore when I added the GLP-1. So it's completely changed everything.
I don't know if this is a question, but it's a comment, long comment. I'm 5'11", 227 pounds, day 53. I'm OMAD regularly. Then I fast sometimes for 48 hours. Friday going for 72. Is it okay for me to play like this if my body is doing great with it?
Mhm.
What do you think, Adrian?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I
If
want to
you
be really clear. We are a community full of people who are succeeding on fasting and carnivore, but there is a subset of people who need some hormone help. And it seems to be a lot of women. There are some men, but it seems to be a lot of women need the hormone help. So I think fasting and carnivore are great. I think for women, some of the research says that long-term OMAD isn't a great long-term strategy just because of the stress hormones. But I think all of these things at a minimum are great for temporary tools as it's cleaning things out. What do you think, Dr. Nelson? You're the doctor.
I agree with you. Let's take this last question here. Who's your carnivore?
I
And
love you.
this is Brett, our friend Brett. How much longer do you expect to be on your GLP-1 now that you have met your weight loss goal?
So Dr. Tina suggests that you stay on it for 6 to 12 months afterwards to create a new normal. Let your body have regulated hormones. Let your gut heal. There is absolutely gut healing. Previously, I could not have any spices. I bloated up with dairy. It was very limited. I was truly eating very basic eggs, butter, and beef and now I've been able to expand significantly, even to have some smoked foods. My histamine intolerance seems to be better. So for most people, I would say you want to stay on it for at least that long. Now, my problem is, unless we heal why the GLP-1 is so deficient to begin with, if you come off of it, you're again going to return to deficiency, just like our thyroid, just like our sex hormones.
So
Not everybody is in that category. If you've had menopause and it's a situational thing, you were fine with your weight until you hit menopause. This can be the reboot for your body. If you had a baby and it seems like your hormones are just messed up after the baby, this could be the reboot for the baby. If you're a person you're a man and you just gained the midlife 40 and you go on this and you get that off, you're a candidate to come off. But if you've struggled your entire life, I wonder if there's some evidence that it's not just the enzymes, but also the gut lining and the nerve endings that are damaged that break up the signaling from getting to your brain and your pancreas. So until we
well,
have a cure.
I'm a traditional trained doctor, and I think when necessary, there are some people who may need some extra help with some medication. So I am not gonna say that I'm totally against going on any medications, because there are sometimes when might be the best option at the moment. I'm glad you mentioned the point about 1 year, perhaps. I think there is that we have a set point and that we can reset that set point. So sometimes takes a long strategy like this as long as at the end there is an exit plan, which, who knows, maybe you try the exit plan and all these problems return, you might have to go back on it. You just mentioned thyroid. It is a very similar situation. Some people are able to get off medication, but some others can't for some reason. Adrian, we are already at the top of the hour.
I
Thank
could
you,
talk with
thank
you
you,
for days. Thank you for having me, Dr. Nelson. I can't wait to see you.
thank you for being here. I do. Do you have any coaching programs or anything like that?
I do. If you go to
Uh,
radicallyhealthy.com, we have a free group and a private group with support calls where we're combining lifestyle with tools like a GLP-1, but there's other peptides and tools we can use as well. So it doesn't have to be just GLP-1. And now there's even oral GLP-1 options that are showing to be very effective. So yeah, I would love to have you. I was checking at Adrian K. Gledhill on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all the places.
all righty. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being here as well. I will have to look at the numbers. This might have been our highest number of the afternoon, Tuesday and Thursdays. You might have some competition with Rick. Rick Rodriguez had a lot of people that came to the live stream, but
Cool.
you've been one of the best ones so
Oh,
far.
well, you're the best one, Dr. Nelson. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. You have a good day. Tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. The people who are in the certification course, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern time. I will see you. And hey, eat meat.